So good afternoon. Thank you for joining. I'm going to try to make it a very pragmatic, practical sequence of advices, I guess, on how to convert the relationship with VC to actual deals. A little bit of why I give this presentation. So I started 5 companies. 2 of them I actually founded and ran for 5 years each. First one, border-free service e-commerce infrastructure for companies like Macy's and Bloomingdale, allowed them to sell internationally. We took the company public in NASDAQ, and later it was sold to Pitney Bowes. Payoneer, and I'll explain Payoneer in a minute, for the context of VC, is a company that actually enables businesses to pay each other globally. It's a pretty complex space, but it kind of reduced the friction and make it easier for companies to work with each other globally. The reason I bring it up, because when you meet a VC, a B2B market is big, payment is complex, it's sophisticated, it's highly regulated, there are not too many players. The big players are banks, are not very fast to move, so there is a lot of opportunity, and for venture capital, the market size, the size of the opportunity makes a big difference. Kind of that's in a nutshell what Payoneer is doing. So when you start a company, it doesn't matter where you are, what stage you are, you're going to need to fund it. And what most people do at the beginning is using friends and family. How they work? Okay. So friends and family, this is where it's going to be tricky. So if you can avoid it, avoid it. The best advice I can do in this stage, you do need money to start a company because you work somewhere, it's kind of tricky, is you can really start really, really cheap. Incorporating a company is about a few $100s. Getting a logo with Fiverr is $5 or $20. Getting a website with Wix is almost free. So try to get the most amount of value, create a lot of value for free as long as you can. Try to avoid families. It comes with complications, right? Because then people are gonna, right? And if you do take money from friends, make sure they understand that this is funny money, and most likely they're not gonna see it again. It has to be some kind of a different reason why they give you the money. It's not an investment. It's really, really high risk, and try not to lose friends. After that, so now we have a website, we have a product, we have something, we go to angels, and now we start to talk about preparation for VC. And angels, for the sake of discussion, I'll divide them to 2 types. There are romantic angels who give you money because they believe in you, or they believe in the product, or they believe in the section, or they're bored and they want to meet interesting people, or whatever. But those are non-professional. I'll call them romantic because they will give you the kiss of life. They will actually make it work for you, but they don't really understand what they're doing. They're not going to be able to influence. And from your perspective, once they fund you, if you just send them a Christmas gift once a year, that's the best relationship you can have with them. There you, right? The second type of angels would be angels that are professional. That's what they do, and those are the ones when you want to try to have. Again, if you don't have a choice and someone's willing to give you money, take it. If you do have choice, then professional angels who also have contact with VC later on that can actually guide you and help you prepare for the VC, those are the preferred ones to take. And there are groups here in the Valley, and there's many of them, and it's important. There's a few things with angels that are important. One is try to sometimes you get into deals with angels that make it almost impossible to later on to go to VCs. If the deal is too vulture, then a VC would come in and would either not appreciate you or just won't be able to explain why this angel have veto rights or visitation or board seats. So sometimes it's really, those deals need to be kind of pretty friendly to be able to continue with that. There's also something that at this point, you are a little kind of a innocent person running around between all the wolves. Try to avoid people that want to get equity for advice, not for money. It's okay to take angels that give you money and advice and give them some option, especially the first one, because that starts the momentum. But for the most part, try to avoid it, and try to avoid consultants who are really connected and they're going to help you. It happens a lot. If they don't put money in, don't use them. Later on, VC see the cap table, and you see that someone have 5% for giving advice, and they need to, for the same 5%, needs to pay a lot of money. It doesn't come nice. Now we go to the VC. And a little bit of philosophy of VC. So VC, in concept, this is like if you look at history, very few times and very few places, people, just because they work hard and they're tenacious and they can come with good ideas and a lot of energy, can actually jump from one social economic level to the other. VC are the gateway. They will give you money based on story. You tell them what you want to build, they believe you can build it, and that's how they give you money. There's no other asset. At the time that you actually raise money, you may have a website, a product design, some code, maybe a customer or two. If you don't show up to work, there's nothing. So at this point, they give you money for story. If something goes wrong, you walk away, the money is gone. There's no collateral, no nothing. That's why it's so critical, and you want to give them the respect and understand how critical they are for you personally to be successful, accomplished, rich, whatever it is. So it's kind of important. When is the time to meet venture capital? The sooner you can, the better. So this is a few things about venture capital. It's all in the internet, but I'll try to emphasize. It's their job to give you money. They went out and find money from a lot of funds. Now they take their money and invest in you. So they will meet you. They're not going to do you a favor by meeting you. They need to meet you. So even if they intend to disqualify you, they have to meet you so they don't miss an opportunity that they didn't see. That's their job. I would meet them as soon as possible. I would meet them before you know that you can actually get money from VC, before you even take the money from angels. They are very competent, smart. I mean, it's very lucrative to work in a VC, so they hire all those annoying overachievers out of these fancy universities. And those people are smart, connected. They know your business. They will give you advice. This advice is important. It's valuable. Embrace it. They will introduce you to a company in their portfolio. Take those meetings. Do it before you need the money. The more it becomes a relationship, they know you over time, the more likely they're going to feel comfortable eventually to fund you. So it's not about getting ready for a presentation and then get funding. It's actually about building a relationship. Again, this is my advice. There are many ways to succeed. Do the one that is right in your intuition. It does come with a set of, so there are horror stories with VCs, a lot of them. And in this context, what I would say is founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, if there is a horror story, I would assume this is your responsibility. So managing the dynamic between you and the venture capitals is your responsibility. And generally, everything is your responsibility, except the successes. The logic is that there is a dynamic to manage between the VC. They have so much power over you, and there's so much, I mean, they can decide which company is going to live or die, so that it's very susceptible for abuse. A lot of VC or people in the VC may act in a way that you can perceive abuse, but you can manage those relationships so you can dissolve it, you can get help, you can get some kind of mitigation. In most of the horror stories, what I would say is that there's two sides to it, and the side of the founder, it's always kind of can be taken actively. This is very important. So you build a business. Doesn't matter what the business is. You get to the VC. They have a different language to discuss the funding. There is liquidation preference. There is accrued interest. There is dilution. There is participating preferred. There is, I mean, a lot of very technical terminology. You need to know it. And you need to know it. You need to be able to negotiate it. If you negotiate with a proxy, with a lawyer, with a friend, then you lose a lot of points by being, I would say, amateur. But it's not about the respect. They just want to be able to negotiate with someone who understands the language. It is complicated, but you can learn it, and then you can appreciate what is important for you and what is important for them. Many of the sections over there, really important for them. You don't care about them. Many of the sections, they can present it as if it's a common practice, but it's a really important thing for you, so you need to appreciate it. I'll say now, like, if there's one thing you can take from this presentation, I'll give you that advice, which is choosing who's giving you advice throughout the raising money process, right? So if you take a lawyer, that is trying to over-defend you, he will go home happy that you didn't take the deal because it was a really bad deal, and you stay without the investment or the money. So be careful of whose advice you take. For the most part, I would say you want to have at least one or two people that have done the process from a founder perspective. They have raised money from company and run company that can actually work with you. Listen carefully to the advice. Getting advice in this stage is super critical, and it's a form of art. You need to be able to make the decision, but at the same time get really wise advice from people who went through this. It's your first time. There are people, I've done it 30 times. I would be able to, not me, but anyone who went through this process will be able to tell you what is important and what is noise, what is trick and what is not, and diffuse a lot of the anxiety that comes with raising capital. So rules, the VC rules is really tricky to learn. You want to do homework. So unlike angel that may never call you again, VC is a relationship that you cannot get out of. They can get you out of the relationship, but you cannot get them out of the relationship. So it's kind of a worst of every marriage you can have. Then you want to learn. They have stories. The people that you work with have stories. The VC have stories. They have companies that they fund and were successful. They have companies that they fund and went terribly wrong. And you want to find that information. You want to find where they went to school, who was the roommate, what's the story with those people. This is pretty important relationship you want to find. It's not that it's all going to be perfect, but you really want to know who you're dealing with. And if you know who you're dealing with, you can build the relationship differently. They will never be your friends. They will not going to be your mentors. They're going to be your business partner. It can be very pleasant. It can be very amicable, very serious. They're very competent people, most of the venture capitals, but don't get confused. Yeah, so you're talking to a partner. The partner is can be a finance person that came out of Ivy League, or it can be someone that was a founder entrepreneur. If he was a founder entrepreneur, he will be much more likely to understand and be sympathetic to your situation. If they're more technical, it's different. Just know who they are and who is in your shoes or not. The stage of the fund, how old is the fund? This is just technical, but it's important to close. So if you're joining a fund that just started, that just raised money from limited partners, then they have all the time in the world to let the company grow and mature, it's successful. They have 7 years before they need to extend it. If you're joining a fund that is already after 6.5 years, they're going to be much more open to have a quick exit. So those things you need to know. There's hundreds of those things, but I'm just kind of chose a few anecdotes. Same is like, who is the portfolio company of the fund? So if the fund have 20 companies, and all of them went bust, and you're the last chance they're ever going to do, the people that you talk to not going to make any money until they pay back all of the fund that they raised, right? So let's say you got an offer for $100 million, and they need to pay back, whatever, 200. They will always do double or nothing. Otherwise, they have nothing to lose. If the fund pay back 20% or 95%, it makes no difference for the people that negotiate. It's not that simple, but you want to know what about the portfolio of that fund, right? If they had 10 exits and the fund is already paid back completely, then it changes the temperature of their appetite for exits. Again, this is just touching the point. It's much more complex, but okay. You're talking to a person. This is where we see a lot of companies fail. You're talking to this guy in the VC. You assume he's half God, but he may be just some nobody in that fund or have no influence, and then it's going to come to a partner meeting, and the deal will fall. At this point, you have no money, and it's a problem. So make sure that when you talk to the partners at the VC, you actually understand and appreciate that they have the influence within the VC to pass the resolution if they like you, if they tell you where the story is. Again, there are many, many rules. I would differentiate in this case. Most people negotiate terms on valuation. There's two sides to the negotiation: valuation, which I care less about, and terms. What affects your quality of life is only the terms. The valuation with VC will only affect how many more people make money. The terms will dictate how good you will sleep at night. Can you hire and fire anyone you want? Can you spend whatever you want to do on how to grow the company? Can you just make decisions? Can you run the company? Can you be the CEO? Those are the terms. And it's also, again, learn it. You need to understand it from a business side. The big issue about replacing CEO. VC can help, they can cause troubles, they can guide, they can make connection, but eventually the single most important decision they can make is succession of CEO. This is a presentation about how to close the round. The discussion about replacing CEO is a discussion that you want to bring up in the process with the venture capitals. I can tell you from my story, in both companies, I ran them for 5 years, and after 5 years, I identified people that I think they can be better than me, and asked them to join. So in the case of Payoneer, we met early on in the process. We got 30 minutes with like this really big guy of MasterCard. In 10 minutes, we realized that he knows so much more about our business than we have no chance. And it was such a really good, both chemistry and talent. It took us 3.5 years to convince him to join and run the company. He's now the CEO. This is Scott. So the succession is super critical. The way you bring up the discussion makes difference. If they feel it's comfortable to talk to you about it, and it's to the fact discussion, and you're okay with it, whatever it is, even if you say, it's not ever going to happen, I do not want to be able to replace, this is my mission, whatever it is, have the discussion, it's important, and it's always in the air whether you talk about it or not. The process, because they give you money based on story, they're going to dig. They're going to find out everything they can, and they're going to measure every which way. If this was a pole dancing, then you are the content. And people are checking whatever they can. This is part of the process. Don't take it personally. It's just the procedure. So this is where most companies start with either one founder or a few founders, but there is one CEO. CEO is CEO is CEO. If you're not the founder CEO, if you're just the founder or you're part of the kind of beginning stage, give respect to the pressure that goes through the CEO. Everybody pulls from every direction. The board, the investors, the customers, the employees, everybody pulls. He needs to run the show at any price. So I think that's where people need help and need to appreciate the stress. But anyone who's running a CEO, running a company at the beginning, that's what it's going to look like for a little bit. There's the issue of managing the board or the investors, the VC, also critical. And that's where the one thing you want to make sure, once you got funded or you have already a board, is that nothing happens in those meetings. Focus on the cookies. The decisions happens before. You want to resolve the major issues before. You want to talk about where people stand before. If there's tension, if there's animosity, if there's ego, you want to address it outside of those meetings, and you try to do it. It's your responsibility to manage that relationship. Nasty board will affect every single of the employees. You cannot buffer between what happens in the board, which is people who never met any of the employees, and the employees. It's really, really critical, and you need to do it going in. As part of starting a company, go out and meet people who are on boards, learn the horror stories, see YouTube, learn the success stories, try to be able to manage it also. That kills companies more than many other reasons. I'm going to get into questions, but a little about the journey. So the first thing I would say is that there is an issue of courage in multiple ways. The most obvious one is hiring people. And everybody thinks that they can hire people better than them. It's a cliche, but it's really, really tricky, right? So you want to go to people that you don't even believe that they will ever consider working for you, that you really look up to them, that, like, think of one person that you like, there's no chance he would ever work for me, and that's the guy you want to hire. So if you look at the kind of references, this is the type of reference you want to get. You want to really have really, really strong people. From kind of what we did is early on, and I think courage is kind of my claim to fame. So we kind of send email to the CEO of Visa International. You know, there's nothing he can do to prevent us from contacting him, and ask him for coffee. He met us for coffee. 2 years, and he invested and joined the board. But kind of that's the type of you really want to aim high. And I think Lending Club took, what's his name? Larry Summers. And I mean, companies that think big and actually manage to get into their, whether it's the board, whether it's the employees, strong people, that changes completely the dynamic of the company. When to let people go. So you start a company, you have one shot. This is maybe not the right image, but if you have one shot to succeed, you have one shot to succeed. If you hire people and they're not the right people for the job, there's a minute that you know it. The sooner you can let them go, the more chances you have for the company to succeed, the more chances you have for the rest of the team to build value. So my 2 cents in this, let people go at the early stage without hesitation very quickly as soon as you know it in your heart that it's not going to work out. The difference between someone good and someone amazing may be 10%. So those people who are okay, those are the ones that kills the companies, right? This is like you want to, when you have 1,000 people in a company, then you need a mix. At the beginning, you really want to create value with people who are super smart, super dedicated, and super competent. Teamwork. And this is kind of, again, rehashing, because this is the music that the VC wants to hear. What I just told you about letting people go, they want to have, in most cases, a CEO who knows what they're doing, that have a pretty clear roadmap how to manage people, how to create value. So this is what I'm going to say about teamwork, and it's always like I see on the planes, all this picture with teamwork. There's 2 things I would say about teamwork. One, you want to create an environment that it's okay for work to be people's identity, that it's okay, and it's actually a pride to come on Saturday morning to the office if there's a crisis. People want to feel honored that they're part of managing that crisis. And that kind of teamwork and environment, it's up to you to create. And second, if you look at what is the value that's being created, it's a group, a collective group, that together, with their decision and actions, create tremendous amount of value. There's no assets, rarely any assets. There is some kind of a chemistry that happened between a fairly small group of people at the beginning. And it's up to the founders and the dynamic around him and the founders in groups to create that social or collective group that create value. And that's, again, this is really, there are many ways to succeed. One of them, or one of the more common one, is complete and total commitment, almost suicide over the company. If the team is totally committed, you can go through most crises and adjust the business model and get the customers. And there's some magic that happens when the team is so committed, somehow everything aligned for the success. It is tough. I haven't seen any startup that was just, we kind of thought about the idea and then suddenly, I don't know what happened, but we took it public. It's always rough stories. Anyways, this is from the Men in Black, and does it worth it? And he says, yes, absolutely, if you're strong enough. And I can tell you from myself and from many people I know, it's worth it more than anyone can imagine. When it works out, and the group of people that started the company actually create value, employees join, families are identified with the brand, customers work with it, you make money, it's all kind of falling into place, it's beautiful, and it really is satisfaction that cannot be imagined. I mean, the sky are bluer, the water is tastier, everything is nicer. It's really worth everything. Maybe I'll finish here and open for questions.
Thank you, Yuval. Okay, if you have one question to Yuval, you can come here and create a short line.
Hi, Adrian Gillette. My question for you is, do you have any recommendations on what material or resources to read in regards to understanding the terminology that VCs use for, in regards to the negotiation
I think the
conversation?
question is, how do I learn all the jargon of the VC? YouTube, Google, find friends. This is Silicon Valley. This is Idaho, so you can find questions about potatoes anywhere. There's a lot of, you need to, just online. There's a lot of it, and practice it. Sometimes you can just meet VC that you don't think, and you can ask them, listen, I'm dumb, can you explain me those things? So they may not invest in you, but at least you're going to figure this out at their expense, okay?
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Yuval. I want to address the crowd that not all the Israelis are bold and beautiful, only two.
What?
Not all the Israelis are bold and beautiful, only two.
Yeah.
You got it. Okay,
Depends on haircut, yeah, okay.
CEO, fundraising, drawing salary from the company. I'm from the East Coast, very conservative, and they kind of assume that if they give you the money, you as a CEO or founder need to be at the basement eating pizza.
Salary of the CEO?
Salary of a founder,
yeah.
CEO, founder, yeah.
So here the question, I think, if you as a founder are supposed to suffer for years of poverty to prove to the VC that you're worthy of their money? That's right? And I think it depends, right? So I think they want to see, and this is critical, they want to see, but the point you get to that point, that you suffered enough, that you have, and this actually makes sense. It's not like it's a hobby. If you committed yourself and your family lives from day to day, and you actually put whatever you have into this, then you're much more vested. It gives them some comfort. I don't think it's the policy. I don't think they're being abusive. I think it's really they want to see that you're committed as well, right? So there's the joke with the chicken and egg, the breakfast. So the chicken is involved, but the pig is committed, right? In the bacon and egg analogy. So they want to see you committed. It's not. I don't think it's a purpose. You need to have life. On the contrary, what I see is in many cases, if the company actually picks up, the VC encourage secondary, so they buy some options from the founders so they can actually give them some liquidity. It may not be at the beginning, but generally, again, there's appreciation for the quality of life of the founder CEO. They don't want him to suffer. Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Yuval, great presentation. The way you covered the power and the economics and the whole equation in the VC world, I haven't heard that a lot, so thank you so much for that. One thing we've been kind of hearing all morning is that relationships matter, right? I mean, the introductions matter, right? Like you talked about not having friends and family, starting from angel investors. Do you have any lessons learned or any hacks on, how do you make sure that you start targeting the right angel investor, the right VC? I mean, any of your experiences you can share on this space? So the question is, how do you kind of figure out that this angel investor is right for you? How do you find them? How do they find you?
So the question is, how do you know which angel from which? So first of all, again, if there's only one angel, it's very easy, it doesn't matter. Take the money. If there is multiple, so most people who made money are a little bit cuckoo. You want to find the one that is not really completely psycho. Right? So it is partnership. So if someone is a little bit too anal about things, then he may not be the right guy. So angels typically, either they're professionals and they know the rules, and they can go through a process, and they still can invest pretty quickly without too much bureaucracy, and that's okay, professionals, and that's typically, they were chosen by other angels, so it's kind of a group, or it's a person. And then, so, I'll take that question and answer. This is a really, really important tip. Take it. This is highly advised. When you meet those angels, always start a discussion before you start to open your guts by asking them who they are and what's the story. You obviously read about them on Google and you know who they are. Give them the opportunity to present themselves. This is important for two reasons. One, this is a relationship. So you want to set up the stage in such a way that it's eye-to-eye level, that he or she can actually present themselves in the way they choose to do it. Most of the pathologies you will find out when they describe that. The second thing is give them the opportunity to impress you. Right? So it's kind of set the stage, but let them, it doesn't matter how much you read about them, how successful they are, give them the opportunity to go through the process and try to make you interested in them. Otherwise, the dynamic is that you're like a little school students who come to the God and ask for money. And that's not a relationship you want to have. So that's kind of the thing. By that time, if you have enough those discussions with them, you will see if this is really wrong. Almost also like the VC, find a story. They have funded other company, ask around. They have stories, find it. Okay, none of them are normal. They're not really nice people. They have stories, but find out about them.
Just a quick follow-up to that. Do you recommend using any platforms like pitchbook.com or the alumni networks, any of that stuff, or does that get into like stalking at that point then?
I would use everything. So when you start, this is like race against time. Once the clock starts, I think you race against time. Just do it. Don't look back. I mean, all platforms are fine. All ways to get funding is fine, as long as it makes sense, as long as people, VC down the road, can see the deal and actually see that this is good deal for them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Yuval.